We're at a special exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum of Art of the work of Juan de Pareja, a 17th century painter, finally being given the attention that he deserves.
Ironically, this artist is known mostly through a portrait of him by the great Spanish painter Diego Velázquez.
And we've always known that in that famous painting by Velázquez that's been so long admired, the man featured in the painting, Juan de Pareja, was enslaved, and his enslaver was Diego Velázquez.
But Pareja was also an artist, and we're standing in front of a very large canvas, what we think was a significant commission. This painting is 10 feet across.
And the subject is the calling of St. Matthew, and it's the story of a moment of conversion, the moment of a life-changing event when Matthew was approached by Christ and called to become one of his apostles, and who at first questions that calling.
All of that takes place in the right half of the canvas. Christ is standing in blue and red. He looks slightly down, and looking up to him is a man dressed in the most extravagant costume. This is Matthew. Before riches, we see pearls, we see gold and silver coins on top of this gloriously painted West Asian carpet.
And those coins spilling out of the bag signal the life that Matthew is turning away from. This life of worldly power and influence, and on the cusp of accepting this spiritual calling. And so we can think about the figures and the space on the right side of that column behind Matthew as this spiritual space, which is spare, where we see a view to nature, where we don't see any of those expensive household goods that are so over the top in the left-hand side of the painting.
Matthew is at this moment of indecision. Is he going to give up this wealth? Is he going to follow Christ and take a spiritual journey? He seems to be gesturing almost as if he's saying, "You mean me?" Questioning how could he possibly be asked to follow Christ.
Matthew is certainly the most extravagantly dressed of the figures that we see on the left-hand side of the painting. Some of the figures are looking up at Christ, some of them don't seem to notice him. But as our eye scans the figures from right to left, from Christ through this room of figures, the golden urns glimmering in the light below the window, the painting on the back wall, the books, all of these signs of wealth and prosperity. At the far left, we see a self-portrait of the artist himself. We see Juan de Pareja, and in his hand he holds a piece of paper which contains his signature. Juan de Pareja made this, and the date of the painting.
This is the only figure that looks out directly at us. He stands nobly. We can see almost his entire body. In fact, that's the only case beyond Christ in this painting where that happens. And importantly, he is dressed as a member of the aristocracy, as a nobleman.
Specifically, the sword that he carries is a clear indicator of status. And I think it's important for us to remember how clear a sense of social hierarchy there was at this time, particularly in Spain. Jews, Muslims, people of color, people of African descent like Pareja had significant restrictions placed on their lives.
The artist was born in Spain, but he is of African descent, and one of two figures in this painting that are black.
We see the other black figure behind the column, although mostly obscured by that point of light above Matthew's head.
It's not unusual to see a black figure in a painting, but it is unusual to see a black figure portrayed in such an ennobled way.
We know that in Spain at this time there was a significant enslaved population. Pareja does get manumitted by Velázquez before this painting is painted. And I think it's important for us to keep in mind not only Velázquez's portrait of Pareja himself, but also Velázquez's self-portrait, where he portrays himself within the court of King Philip IV of Spain as a way of showing, of proving his noble status, his status above the level of a normal artist by his presence within the court. So we know that Velázquez had this concern for his own status, and clearly Pareja is concerned with his status in this painting.
And Velázquez's own striving for social status was augmented by being a slave owner.
Interestingly, we see this moment where Matthew gives that up in favor of a spiritual life.